Please come on up, Jose.
Thank you.
I'm going to hesitate to characterize you because you gave me your whole resume, and I generally ask for the three things that I really want to highlight, so you're going to have to do that for me. And we're right on schedule here. So folks, thank you so much for participating with the questions at the appropriate time. To the extent that we can compress our conversations, we'll have a chance to kind of needle them a little bit and make sure they're talking about the things that we care about. Jose, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. It's really a privilege, actually, to be able to present to you one city's story. There's 100 cities in the state of Florida. And this is the story of one suburban city, but we'll look at our challenges and see how we've come with implementing and trying to really change the way our community is set up, and that's the city of Palm Coast. So before I go too far, let's, got a little teaser for you here.
You can feel at home while you play as you please in a part of old Florida set in the trees. Along the canals there's a song on the breeze in Palm Coast. In Palm Coast we've got family fun and a whole lot more. Miles of trails for you to explore. Discover Palm Coast, find your Florida.
Palm Coast. Find your Florida. Visit discoverpalmcoast.com.
That was actually a promotional video that was produced by a group of employees. Other than the song, the production itself was done by city employees. And the reason I bring that up is that because it really will tell you a little, it sets the background for the rest of my presentation about why the bike-ped program within the city is important. With that promotional video, you see that we think that community is important. It's how we present our community and what types of things we can present within our community that will attract new residents and visitors to our city. So just to give you a background of who we are, Palm Coast was a planned community by ITT, that International Telephone and Telegraph, who wasn't really in the land, got into the land development business in the early 70s. It was developed as a retirement and car-centric community with no pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and hence our challenge. It was both our burden and in some ways now a blessing. It's a burden in that there were no bicycle and pedestrian facilities. It was a blessing because it was designed as a car-centric community. Guess what? We have quite a bit of right-of-way on which to build our bike-ped facilities. So that's why I say it's both a blessing and curse. We're a fairly young city, incorporated in 1999. We're growing, continue to grow. Our projected 2035 population will be 168,000. The city is getting younger from a retirement community where our median age was 51 in the 2000 census. We're down to about a median age of 45 based on the 2010 census. And our student population holds steady about 12,800. The one thing about the organization within the city is that our city manager is really big on teams. We have teams for everything. It says, you have an issue, we have a team for it. And one of the teams we have is our strategic action plan team. And this team really gets into the conversation with our council members and our elected officials. And this strategic action plan ties into the budget. And so here's where we get into how do we make sure that our bike-ped program continues to move forward. Well, we've got to make sure that we have buy-in from our elected officials who, of course, hold the purse strings, and how we present to them that this issue is a priority, not only within the community, but also is also a key to attracting new residents and visitors to the city. So within the strategic action plan, we've set up goals. And within those goals, you have objectives and what we call strategies. And here you see that one of the objectives is that we need to continue to evaluate the evolution of the city Parks and Recs master plan projects. And one of the strategies within that objective is that we need to continue to build the future bicycle and pedestrian connections to unique destinations within the city. It all started off with a vision. Our comprehensive plan, again, we're a young city. Our first comprehensive plan was adopted in 2004. Within that comp plan, we had policies to improve our connectivity to parks and the schools. We had a policy to develop a bike ped master plan. And it included a map of future trails and paths. This was the existing system back when this comp plan was first adopted. This was the vision that was presented, that this is where we'd like to be in the future. That vision was good. But without a plan to implement that vision, it really was just that, a vision. So now we get into the planning of implementing that vision. That lack of cohesive plan to implement the vision presented a couple of results. And those are in bold up there. One was that we had uncoordinated improvements in the city, what people will call sidewalks to nowhere. You'd have a development come in. Oh, you need to build a sidewalk in front of your property. Okay, fine. But lots on either side were undeveloped, so what did you have? You had a sidewalk to nowhere. It began and it ended, but it led to nowhere. There were no standards for our facilities. And finally, there was no financial plan to carry out the vision of this wonderful bike ped master plan. So in 2008, we completed the bike ped master plan and consistent with our comprehensive plan. It identified the gaps in the system, it prioritized projects, and I think most importantly, it identified potential funding sources. Building from the bike ped master plan, we were also at that time completing the recreation parks facilities master plan. That one was conducted. We had surveys, focus groups, public workshops. And what we found from all those different methods of public engagement was that the community continued to make a statement about the need for more bike ped facilities within the city. And so the bike ped master plan was incorporated into the parks master plan. And that, again, went to that strategy or that objective in the strategic action plan that this is a program that we really want to embrace and create in the city. So within the implementation, where did our bike ped master plan lead to? Well, it's there to connect our residential areas to the schools, commercial, and recreational areas. We need to access and highlight the parks and the natural areas and really just tie that into our bike ped system. It created priorities, again, with the initial bike ped master plan, filling in those gaps, filling in where you have those sidewalks to nowhere, and connecting them and leading them to somewhere. And finally, targeting the main arterials and goals, and arterials and corridors. In implementation, we've used a number of different funding sources, CDBG, we had stimulus funds coming through the federal government, DOT, of course, a big source. We have capital funds, city funds, and one of the things that we do in order to stretch the dollars that we get is that we do a lot of projects in-house. And that's from soup to nuts. Survey, design, and construction. And that's just there as a strategy to stretch those funds. And what that really does for staff, it gives them something to do outside of their day-to-day mundane work. Public Works is more than happy, I guess, to cut grass and trim limbs off of trees, but when they're given a project such as this, where they're able to help construct a multi-use path, they're quite thrilled to be able to actually construct something. We'd like to say that we don't have a maintenance crew with Public Works. We have a construction and maintenance crew. So just looking at some of the examples, not all of these were built by our Public Works staff. I mean, some of these were done through consultants and contractors, but just to give you a flavor of what we have, what we've been able to implement, our trails go through natural areas, such as the Graham Swamp Trail. And one of the amenities we had at the Graham Swamp Trail was some wayfinding signs. This one's the Lehigh Trail, a rail-to-trail project. This was done by one of our partners, Flagler County, and it runs right through the heart of Palm Coast. And here, it's in a more urban setting, along one of our major arterials, Belterre Parkway, is a multi-use path. And along with that, of course, if you see the landscaping to the left of that picture, I think that just becomes part of our program. Here's another one on Whiteview Parkway. This one shows an example of another amenity and standard that we are trying to create on our trail, and that's the bench area here, the rest area along the path. Our bike ped master plan and bike ped program is also incorporated into our beautification program. Again, this is one of our major arterials. And after the beautification program, and if you notice, just on the other side of that guardrail is where we have a boardwalk, which is essentially a 10-foot bike path adjacent to this arterial. Again, now we're able to create the standards for our multi-use paths. We have benches, bridges. Gone are the times when the right-of-way or the paved area gets constricted. Let's just end it here. Let them figure it out how to get to the other side and connect to the sidewalk. This has become the standard. We're not going to constrict you to whatever's available. We'll build a bridge to make sure that you're able to continue your ride. And of course, and just part of our program, again, addressing, this is a school bus stop, and gets kids off the street, and give them a nice place to sit in a shaded area while waiting for the bus. And this is something new that's been happening in the city lately through our partnerships with local businesses and foundations. We've been able to install a number of bike maintenance stations at some of our trailheads. And as you can see from this one is courtesy of the Bicycle Doctor, one of our local bicycle shops in Flagler County. The title of my presentation was How Palm Coast Became a City of Trails, but I think that title might have been presumptuous because it probably should have been titled How Palm Coast is Becoming a City of Trails. We're far from done. And despite all the success we've had, there's still more that we need to do, and that includes enhancing the system. Again, additional connections from our residential areas, improving safety. Our paths were built at different times throughout the life of the city, different engineers, different project managers. So there's been some differences in, okay, if I come to this intersection, why am I going behind the stop bar? But if I'm on this path, I'm going in front of the stop bar. So finding or standardizing those types of things just to improve safety on our system. QR codes, wayfinding signs, building our system to connect to regional trails, like the St. John's River to Sea Trail, and of course maintaining our system, keeping it safe. The more we add, the more of a challenge it is. And moving forward, as I mentioned earlier, our city manager likes a lot of teams. You have an issue, we have a team. One of the teams we have is the infrastructure team. And I think this is one of the keys in moving our program forward. We have an annual, again, going back to the strategic action plan, we annually prioritize projects through that strategic action plan. We develop a 10-year CIP, which becomes a 5-year CIP. And then, of course, that 5-year CIP, or capital improvements plan, is adopted by the city council as part of its budget. So you know that when they adopt that 5-year CIP and you have these projects in there, you know that it's funded. And this is what you should expect in the next 5 years. The first year, of course, is a definite. The 4 years might get shifted around here and there, but it's there. It reminds council of what you approved last year. Remember, if we just move this all forward, then everything should fall in line. And I think the most important thing that this infrastructure team does is, again, to coordinate the planning, design, and construction schedule. especially crucial when we're doing projects in-house. If ever there comes a time where a sidewalk or a project is built and is torn up within a year, 2 years, somebody's head will roll. And that's the purpose of that infrastructure team. We're able to identify that if utilities is putting in a reclaim line, that might be a good time to time it with putting in the landscaping and the other facilities that might go on that particular corridor. So it could mean shuffling priorities around or schedules around, but again, the priorities will remain the priorities. And finally, how does it all tie into economics or economic development? Prosperity 2021 is the City of Palm Coast Economic Development Plan. And we recognize that there are things that we can and should be promoting. The one thing that we recognize is that we were a city founded based on attracting residents. We are a suburban community, a retirement community. That's our attraction. A place to live and in making sure that the amenities that we offer will continue to attract people to move to Palm Coast and to visit Palm Coast. We're not historic. We don't have a historic downtown like Gainesville or DeLand. What we have is 40-year-old homes. We have a lot of lots, but we can offer you amenities such as our bike ped system and our parks and water. So we focus on our neighborhoods. How do we keep Palm Coast beautiful, encourage home ownership and reinvestment, and provide quality services? The answer to this, of course, the presentation, bike ped facilities. How do we make Palm Coast attractive to new residents, business, and visitors? Again, the key component here, the bike ped system that we can create. Within our economic development plan, there are different strategies that we try to hit. Coordinating, promoting local events, pedestrian bicycle master plan implementation, sporting events, attraction and marketing, the trails map and guide, a trail wayfinding and signage projects, and aggressively pursuing grants to continue to implement our program. And of course, expanding the transportation network, not just by adding lanes, but adding a different type of creating a multimodal system, transportation network. Our sports tournaments, our international festivals, our special events such as an annual Tour de Palm Coast, which attracts people to come to Palm Coast. And this isn't a 200, it's not even a 50-mile ride. What this is really, it's an eco tour of our parks done on bicycle. And a special event, I think this might look familiar to some of you. This was your event back in April. And our running series, which we hold on our trails and paths. And finally, our multi-use path, this is our visitor's guide. I left a few out on the table out there, but this is what we use to distribute as part of our promotional item. So where we are is 120 miles and counting. And again, what the bike ped system does is that when we invite people to come to Palm Coast for the sports tournaments, for the international, for the festivals or special events, what we hope is that when people come, it kind of leaves a memory in their brain about what the city has to offer, how clean the city is, what we do to try to beautify our city, and the amenities that we offer. So again, thank you for the opportunity to share.